Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this full council meeting of the 10th of May. I would like to welcome everyone who's here with us and those who are joining online. There will be a 1 hour lunch break if necessary. However, given the size of the agenda, I am pretty hopeful we will finish by lunchtime, and therefore hopefully a comfort break. Hopefully a comfort break will suffice at an appropriate point. And that's an encouragement for you all, I hope. If I can ask the clerk to confirm any apologies and take a roll call.
Thank you, Provost. We have no apologies today. We do have some members online. If I could ask them to confirm they are present. Bailey Brock.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Illingworth.
Present.
Councillor Kogali. Councillor Kogali is. Okay, thank you. Councillor Robertson.
Present.
Councillor Welch.
Present, sorry.
Thank you. And Bailey Williamson.
Present.
Thank you. All members are present, Provost, with the exception of Councillor Kogali, who I believe is having trouble joining online.
Thank you very much. Members, on behalf of the council, I would like to acknowledge the very sad passing of John Bullock last week. He gave a huge amount to Perth Kinross and indeed to wider Scotland and the UK in many ways. He was the chair of the Perth City Development Board, and as part of that helped lead the campaign to return the Stone of Destiny to Perth, which will happen obviously next year. He founded the Scottish charity Air Ambulance, which has helped save thousands of lives during its operation. And in that time, when he was the founder of it, he helped raise £50 million. And I think they had something like nearly 1,000 call-outs last year. And many of us who have particularly rural wards will appreciate the importance of that organisation. Close to my own ward, he was also a member of the Atholl Highlanders and was a significant part of his life as well, having been in the army and as a captain. Also a special constable, and I believe in the Royal Company of Archers. So he had an incredibly varied life and gave an incredible amount to so many across, not just, as I say, Perth and Kinross, but actually across wider Scotland and the UK. I'm sure all members wish to join me in paying tribute to him for all of his work and to send our condolences to the family. Members, item 2 is declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest in respect of today's business? I'm seeing no declarations of interest. Members, therefore, item 3.1, members are asked to approve the minute of the council meeting of the 8th of February 2023. Can we agree that minute? Agreed. Thank you. Members, item 3.2 is the minute of the council meeting of the 1st of March 2023. Can we agree that minute? Agreed. Thank you. Members, item 4 is the outstanding business statement. Are there any questions on the outstanding business statement? No. If there are no questions on the outstanding business statement, can I ask if we can note the outstanding business statement and agree to remove the completed actions from the outstanding business statement? Agreed. Thank you. Members, item 5.1, events using fireworks, and I will invite Councillor Leishman to move the motion.
Good morning, Provost, Baileys and councillors. Before speaking about this motion, I would like to thank you all for your patience. You will remember that it was the December council meeting that I originally brought a motion for alternative methods of celebration to be used, and you will see what Councillor Drysdale and I have brought to today's meeting has substantially changed to what you previously heard. I would also like to thank Councillors Duff, Forbes, Chan, Waters, McEwen and Liz Barrett for sharing their thoughts with me regarding the motion. As I've just said, the motion put forward before you today does look very different. But in as much as the motion has been revised, the reasons for bringing it remain the same. To briefly recap, in December, we heard Angie Ferguson from Perth Autism Support. Angie explained that for many people living with autism and other neurodiversity issues, fireworks and explosions can present a very troubling experience. Also, after serving in or experiencing the horrors of conflict, the possibility of people suffering post-traumatic stress is very real, and loud explosions can be detrimental to people that live with experiences of trauma that the vast majority of us, quite frankly, cannot comprehend. Also, at December's meeting, Katie McCandless-Thomas from Missing Pets Perth Kinross spoke passionately. And personally, I found Katie's contribution about the adverse effects fireworks have on pets incredibly emotional. Finally, when introducing the motion in December, I highlighted the negative impact fireworks have on our environment. Councillors, I've spoken with many of you about the original motion. I've also spoken with officers from both Police Scotland and the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service and legal professionals, and we've all seen the briefing note that has been issued by council officials. I've reflected on all the conversations I've had and considered all advice received. And truthfully, I would like to go further than what this motion proposes, but I realise that is a journey that not enough of us are likely to take. My attention then has turned to what realistically can be achieved to make things better. I believe that the motion put to you today still provides us with the opportunity to positively influence things for the benefit of people across our communities and also their pets. We will still have the existing annual events listed where traditional fireworks are held in either a PKC asset or a PKC managed, sponsored or funded. And important cultural and religious events like the Chinese New Year celebrations and Diwali that use fireworks or pyrotechnics are also included for approval. Event organisers are to publicise the date and timings of their display in the local printed media, on local radio and on any social media accounts the event runs, and to notify the council of the location and timings of the fireworks and pyrotechnics display so that these may be publicised to the council's social media channels in advance. You will also see that there is a time limit of 30 minutes for fireworks and pyrotechnics displays. On average, a display lasts up to 20 minutes, and this half-hour window allows for inclement weather or other unforeseen delays. And legally, applications can be made for the use of council property, land, funding or sponsorship for events which will involve use of fireworks or pyrotechnics. In such cases, consideration would be given to whether the application justifies departure from the general policy position and that such a decision would require approval of council. I believe with this motion we can take proactive action to ensure our residents are well informed and have the opportunity to take preemptive measures that will make a real difference for those that experience the issues I have previously mentioned. And finally, I'd like to conclude in the same manner as I started, in thanking you for your time over the course of 2 council meetings. It's an emotive subject and your input has been appreciated, valued and considered, and I hope you feel this motion reflects this. Thank you very much, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Leishman. Councillor Drysdale to second the motion, please.
Thank you, Provost. Colleagues, to set the context here, the Fireworks and Pyrotechnics Scotland Act 2022 was passed by the Scottish Parliament on 29th June last year and received royal assent on the 10th of August. The legislation already makes it a criminal offence for anyone to supply fireworks or other pyrotechnic articles to a person under the age of 18. Work is progressing to enact other powers set out in the Act, specifically including the introduction of a fireworks licensing system with mandatory safety training and introducing powers for local authorities to designate firework control zones. These measures, once fully rolled out, will happily create hopefully a much safer environment across Scotland and will further deter the kind of dangerous behaviours we have seen last November across Scotland and in previous years. It's against that background, where cross-party support was achieved at Holyrood, that I urge elected members in this chamber to follow suit today by tightening up our local policy on fireworks displays under any form of control by Perth Kinross Council. The bottom line here is that Councillor Leishman and I would like to ensure that vulnerable people and animals can be protected as much as possible from the fright and indeed terror that they experience when faced with sudden, loud, explosive noises. By requiring organisers of existing fireworks displays on land owned by the council or using council resources in any way to set a clear window of a maximum of 30 minutes for the issue of fireworks, and crucially to widely publicise these timings on local and social media, both through their own communication routes and the council's widely followed social media channels. We hope that this will enable families and pet owners who dread these events every year to take appropriate steps to ensure that their vulnerable family members can be protected from harm at these times. And we're also drawing a line in the sand here that says that council policy, if approved, will be that any proposals for new events in future will only be granted exceptionally with approval of this full council of elected members. I'm very pleased to second this motion and strongly urge colleagues across the chamber to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. I have a comment from Councillor Peter Barrett, first of all.
Thanks, Provost. I have to say that following the discussion that we had in the Chamber 5 months ago on alternative means of celebrating events, the motion in front of us today comes as a distinct disappointment. And I think in a gesture of kindness towards the mover and seconder, I'll not contrast the contents of the original motion with what's in front of us today. I did, in the spirit of trying to improve this motion and address the concerns that were highlighted by the previous delegations to council, I wanted to propose an amendment to introduce the 90 decibel limit on the fireworks used in displays supported by the council. Unfortunately, I've been told that it's not competent to do so. So I would ask the mover and seconder of the motion whether they would be willing to incorporate a sentence into the motion that the council will examine the feasibility of introducing a 90 decibel limit for fireworks in accordance with the RSPCA bang out of order campaign that I referenced at the previous meeting of the council, and I think that would take us a step in the direction of what was originally proposed to this council. I note that there is this difference between the text of the motion on the screens and the text of the motion in our pact, which includes a fourth bullet point which references the Braemar Day fireworks event in Blairgowrie that isn't on the screens. So if we have clarification as to what the status of the Braemar Day fireworks in Blairgowrie and its relevance to this motion, then that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barrett. I believe it would be competent for us to explore as you have requested, so I will come to the mover in a second to find out whether that's something they wish to consider incorporating. However, I have a point of order from the Leader of the Council, which means I need to take that first.
It's actually from myself, Provost, without my laptop here. The motion as worded on screen is not the final version.
Sorry, is that a point of order or a point of clarification? It's beginning to...
You tell me.
Well, it sounds like a point of clarification.
Okay, there should be an additional example under the indented bullet points there, which relates to an event in Blairgowrie on Braemar Day.
Indeed, that is on the on the agenda papers.
Yeah,
It's just not on the screen, so we will endeavour to update that, but just so that members are aware of that. Okay, I'm going to come to Councillor Leishman as the mover to see whether he wishes to respond to Councillor Barrett's request.
Thank you very much, Provost, and thank you to Councillor Drysdale. He's absolutely correct there. If you look at page 83, I believe, of the 286 pages, that is the final motion. So thank you very much, Councillor Drysdale. In regard to Councillor Barrett, firstly, as a Liberal Democrat, he'll understand the pragmatism involved in perhaps changing opinions. So that explains why. Or certainly goes some of the way to explaining the difference from the December motion to this one. So thank you for that. And I would like to thank him. Yes, myself and Councillor Drysdale are both very happy to explore 90 decibels instead of the standard 120. So thank him very much for the motion. Sorry, for the amendment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to come to Bailey Ahern, who has put in that it's a question, but obviously we have a motion that's been moved, so I'm going to assume it's maybe a point of clarification.
If you want that wording, yes, Provost. It's basically to ask the proposer and seconder whether they've looked at anything with regards to policing this and making sure this is followed. You may have a number of households want to get together and use a bit of land to set off an impromptu display. And I just wondered whether they've explored that with officers as to how that's going to be policed across the Perth and Kinross.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leishman or Councillor Drysdale, do either of you wish to pick up on Bailey Ahern's point of clarification?
Thanks very much, Bailey Ahern. Yes, there's been conversations with officers, and if proposed, if passed here today, that it's conversations that will certainly be taken up with the events department, but also as well through Executive Director Renton as well as Head of Communities.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Liz Barrett with a comment. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. The point was raised and it's been covered. Thank you, Provost.
Sorry, I didn't notice you'd remove that. Thank you. Councillor Bob Braun, comment stroke possible point of clarification, I'm guessing.
I would, yes, I think so. I mean, I spoke to, thank you, Provost. I spoke to Councillor Leishman about this last week at another meeting. My concern slightly is that the items in bullet point 2, the second bullet point, effectively set a precedent, and I'm worried that that precedent will effectively negate the last bullet point, because I think any application to the council might be difficult to refuse, given that other named events have taken place. And I just wondered if he might want to comment on that. We did discuss it last week, and he said he'd have a think about it. As Councillor Leishman or Councillor Drysdale.
Thanks very much, Councillor Braun. Yes, I did reflect on it. Thanks very much for your feedback. I think the 4 that are mentioned in 83, and I've spoken to Executive Director Renton about this as well, is that is the 4 designated existing annual events that we've got. So I think between those 4 and in bullet point 2, the religious festivals such as Chinese New Year and Diwali, I think that's clear enough in regard of what we've currently got, and hopefully that we're going to carry on with.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other contribution requests. Oh, Councillor Allen, just getting in there.
Thank you, Convener. It was just on a point of, well, it's either a question or a point of clarification on the suggested amendment. I find it very difficult for officers or the police or anybody else to police the matter of whether a firework is 120 or 90 decibels. We can put it in a legislative document, but how do we know if that's been broken, and how do we police that?
Okay, well, there obviously are ways of measuring sound, and environmental health do that for a variety of things. I don't know if Councillor Leishman or Councillor Drysdale wish to add anything on this. Councillor Allen.
It's more the point that it would be dealt with after the event. We can't do anything during an event to stop what's actually in process.
I think Councillor Barrett wishes to provide an answer to the point of clarification from Councillor Allen, so I'll come.
Yeah, thanks, Provost, and I'll kind of do my best to try and clarify it. British fireworks are constructed to the fireworks standard, which currently refers to 120 decibel limit, measured at 25 metres in a wide open space. The display a height of 1 metre and I think 15 metres a distance for noise pressure. Basically, the 90 decibel limit would be in accordance to the firework manufacturer's specifications, is how it would be tested as to whether it met the criteria. But obviously, that's something that can be gone into when we're considering the feasibility of such a condition.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Forbes, you wish to make a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Provost. I'll support this motion because I believe in the principle of what they're trying to achieve here, but I am really disappointed it's a vastly watered down version of what we saw the last time. I'm fairly convinced that in the real world it won't actually make any difference to anyone's lives, which is disappointing, but hopefully it's something that will get the public thinking, and maybe people who are having fireworks displays will think a little bit about what we've discussed today and bear that in mind when they decide what they want to do. Thanks, Provost.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Forbes. Councillor Leishman, do you wish to sum up?
Thanks very much, Provost. And just to reiterate my thanks to fellow members, it's the second time it's been brought back, and thanks very much for your patience and for the effort behind the scenes in trying to find some sort of consensus for it as well. I appreciate it. I think we've spoken about this enough now over the course of 2 meetings, so I'm happy to carry on.
Thank you. Members, can we agree the revised motion? Agreed. Thank you. Members, item 5.2, single-use vapes in Perth and Kinross. Councillor Liz Barrett to move the motion, please.
Thank you, Provost. Good morning, Council. I recognise we've a lot of motions this morning and other important business, and with the Provost's encouragement, I will aim to be brief. Just to highlight a few key points about the motion. We recognise that vapes can be helpful to people who are trying to give up cigarettes, and this motion is directed at so-called disposable vapes, not all vapes. The disposable vapes only last for around 600 puffs and then they're thrown away. Each one has a lithium battery which has used precious mineral resources in its production. They should be disposed of safely, but all too often they're not, as confirmed by Keep Scotland Beautiful. And apart from the litter problems this causes here in Perth, the fire at Triarton was a tragic reminder to us all of the dangers facing those who work in waste disposal, and we need to keep them safe. The design and marketing of many disposable vapes is luring young people into experimentation with vaping and nicotine addiction. In the recent health and wellbeing census, 11% of secondary school pupils in Perth and Kinross said that they'd used vapes, and 36% of S4s said that they'd tried them. 10% said they were using them at least once a week. These statistics are very worrying, as was raised at the briefing that councillors had yesterday from Education and Children's Services. Our own trading standards officers have been finding illegal vapes on sale with nearly 6 times the capacity allowed by the legislation. Last year, they made 42 seizures and had made more than 12 seizures by mid-April this year, with follow-up visits to ensure that those traders were no longer selling the illegal vapes. I'd like to thank our Trading Standards and Education and Children's Services teams who are working with our schools and NHS professionals to educate our young people and their families about the dangers of vapes and the law. In England, the UK government's recently announced a crackdown on the supply and sale of vapes, and £3 million of funding has been pledged from their Department for Health and Social Care to support trading standards officers. That's why we're asking our councillor leader, Grant Lane, to write yet another letter to the Scottish Government to ask for additional funding to support trading standards in tackling non-compliance. I said I'd be brief. That's it. Please support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Richard Waters to second, please.
Thank you, Provost, colleagues. Firstly, I would like to thank Councillor Liz Barrett for the work she has put into bringing this motion before Council. Laura Young, Scottish Influencer of the Year in the Inspiration category and one of the guest speakers at last year's Perth and Kinross Youth Climate Change Conference. started the campaign calling for legislation to ban single-use disposable vapes at source. As of today, 14 councils have supported the campaign. Hopefully, and council willing, we will be the 15th. And as I believe there's another 4 councils in the next few days that will also be bringing similar motions before them. With the explosion in single-use vapes creating a real concern for our environment, with the plastic waste, when it is dumped irresponsibly, ending up in our rivers and oceans, where it is a threat to marine wildlife. Along with the threat and danger caused by the lithium batteries that's already been mentioned that contain corrosive and flammable chemicals. But as we strive for a circular economy, it is imperative that we ban these single-use disposable vapes and protect our environment. This motion is made more imperative given the reports suggesting their popularity is soaring among those who have not previously smoked, especially among younger generations, where they can be purchased at pocket money prices. I would finally also like to follow and Keep Scotland Beautiful call in urging retailers to follow the shopping chain Waitrose lead and stop selling single-use vape products. The reason that Waitrose give for this being the negative impact on the environment and the health of our young people. I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Members, we're just going to take a very short pause just while we adjust the lighting. If you can just bear with us 2 seconds. Thank you, members. I have a couple of councillors wanting to come in and comment, including Leader of the Council, but I have an amendment from Councillor Shires, so I'm going to come to her first, if that's okay. Councillor Shires.
Thank you, Provost. I'd like to thank Councillors Barrett and Waters for bringing this really important motion to Council today. I don't think there's anything in it that any of us would disagree with. My very brief amendment to it is just to beef up the bit with an addition that through our Trading Standards Officer team to continue a programme of information to retailers and enforcement of the current legislation to reduce access to all vaping products for those under 18. And it's solely there just to reiterate the point that the people that are selling these to young people and to children need to be very much reminded of their responsibilities, and just to give us all the opportunity to reiterate that in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shires. Councillor Kigali, you're going to second the amendment.
Provost, I think he's indicated in the chat that he's seconding it.
Yes, I thought he might want to speak. I think he was on the telephone.
That's unmuted now, I think. Am I unmuted?
Okay, I think we're just going to accept that as seconding the amendment. Thank you, Councillor Kigali. Leader of the Council, you wish to make a comment?
Just to say I support the motion, and if the mover and the seconder wish to accept the amendment, I'm quite happy to support that. Although I think that most of that is covered within the part that the council would be resolving for me to write. So just to say that I'm very happy to write to the Scottish Government, and I fully support the motion with or without the amendment added to it. I'll leave that to the movers and proposers of the motion to decide.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Barrett, do you wish to come back at the moment, or do you wish to come back at the end?
Happy to come back just now to say to thank Councillor Shires and Councillor Kigali for their amendment and Councillor Lang for his support, and to say that we'll be happy to accept the amendment in the motion if Councillor Waters would please confirm. Thank you.
Likewise, Dato, absolutely happy to have that included within the motion.
Good, thank you very much. Councillor Allen.
Just a comment, really. Disease-causing bacteria and viruses such as cold, RSA, COVID and flu, they're resident in the passages and throat of most people. Of course, those are spread from breath, person to person. The most efficient form of spreading any of these would be by using cooled vapour as a vehicle. Vaping produces exactly that. One person vaping can contaminate many hundreds of other people with one exhalation. The vapour is designed to float at head height for extended periods in order that other people inhale and smell the fragrances. Vaping is an entry level to smoking rather than a deterrent, a dangerous and ridiculous situation for school-aged children. I fully support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Provost. The motion before us today is a welcome one. I think we'll all have noted the rise in the use of vaping products, especially by young people, and in particular, the use of disposable vaping devices. A recent UK government study reports that 53% of 11 to 18-year-olds who vape now use disposable brands. And as already stated, their own health and wellbeing survey conducted last year showed that around 5% of our S4 pupils admitted vaping every day, with about 17% vaping once or more per week. And it's becoming a significant problem within our schools. While I agree with the proposals in the motion, I also feel there is a need for stronger enforcement action and welcome the inclusion of Councillor Shire's amendment into the motion. While the UK report advised that about 25% were bought online, the majority of the rest were purchased by underage users from shops and supermarkets or were bought for them by adults. This is an area where the Council can take action. These are offences under the legislation, and we should be using all our powers, including our test purchase powers, to the full to help protect the health of our children. As a council, we are committed to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Provost. I fully support this motion. I think the problem here is, of course, partially prices. If you think the average pack of 20 cigarettes is now the lowest, what we sell is £11.95, most expensive is £15. These items tend to retail around about £5.50, so that's obviously an attraction. But I think the emphasis needs to be on education, both for young people and retailers. The dangers of these devices. There's a belief that because there's no or very little tar inside them, there's none in my understanding, and no nitrates that burn from the paper, that they are far safer. But of course, nicotine is an addictive drug and can have serious consequences later in life. And I feel, as we've put an amendment in, that amendment should be supported, as it has been, to enforce the existing legislation. Our ward has always plenty of youngsters walking about vaping, so somebody is retailing these items illegally, and that's where the concentration should be. I would assume it's not a major supermarket. It must be a small corner shop somewhere, and I can safely say it's not us because we don't sell them. So I'm completely innocent on this one, but I do support the motion completely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Braun. Councillor John Rebeck.
Thank you, Provost. Apologies for that mic not working. Just to concur with everything that's been said, but also to recognise the great work that our staff in the schools do day in, day out with all kinds of moral issues and modern day temptations, not least single-use vapes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John Rebeck. And Councillor Liz Barrett, do you wish to sum up?
I promise to be brief. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barrett. I appreciate that. Members, can we agree the revised motion? Agreed. Thank you. Members, item 5.3, Grand National winner. The Leader of the Council to move the motion.
Thanks, Provost. I think we could all agree that it's a fantastic achievement by Linda Russell, Peter Scudamore and all their team to achieve their second Grand National win with the same jockey, Derek Fox. It is an amazing achievement to win one Grand National, which is a major event across the UK and across the world. So to be brief, everybody can see the motion up there. I would like to amend my own motion because of discussions between elected members and Lucinda Russell and her team, which hadn't taken place before the papers went public. And I think that along the lines with the way that we've honoured our previous sporting heroes in the last 3 or 4 years, I would like to propose that we offer the Freedom of the City of Perth to Peter Scudamore, Linda Russell, on behalf of their whole team, including the horse and the jockey and everybody else that's involved. So that is my motion, and I would like for us to be able to do that. So that's my motion, and I'll pass over to Councillor Waters to second.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Waters to second the motion.
Thank you, Provost and colleagues. Linda Russell has been in the Kinross area since 1979, following her passion with horses, and from 1995 started to build the successful stables we know today, training numerous winning horses. With the stables employing over 50 people who all stay locally, ensuring they're always on hand to care for the horses and, importantly, contributing to the local economy. With Kinrossshire and wider afield, there is real recognition and pride over the achievements of the horses trained at the stables, with the team also engaging with the local community, including a planned visit to Milnathorpe Primary School in the near future. The stables champion welfare standards in Scotland, with excellent veterinary facilities at their stables. When chatting with locals who work and stay in the area, there is no mistaking their love for the horses and the excellent care they provide. Even once the horses have finished racing, the stables ensure they receive the highest care as they're put into retirement. In recognition of the contribution the stables have made to the local area, I'm happy to second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Neil Freshwater.
Thank you very much, Provost. If I could just echo some of the comments and thank the Leader of the Council and my fellow ward councillor, Councillor Waters, for bringing forward this motion recognising this fantastic achievement. As has been noted, this is the second time that Kinrossshire has provided a Grand National champion. Back in 2017, one for Arthur became only the second Scottish horse to win the Grand National. And this recent victory in 2023 of Coach Rambler was rather poignant because it came only, I think, 2 weeks after one for Arthur sadly passed away. But I would just like to add to Councillor Waters' comments about the importance of the equestrian industry, particularly in Kinrossshire. And I'm sure this is reflected in many of our rural wards across Perth and Kinross. Not only do we have Lucinda Russell and her fantastic facilities that we've just heard about, but just across the road we've got the Kinross Polo Club, the Kinross Vaulting Club nearby, and a handful of fantastic equestrian facilities. In addition, we've got the Lochleven equine practice, which is one of Scotland's leading veterinary surgery practices, and I think it's really important to recognise this. Obviously, in wider Perth and Kinross, we have our own race course. So I think really just to thank my fellow councillors for bringing forward this motion and recognise the importance of the equestrian industry to our rural communities, as well as recognising this fantastic achievement for Lucinda Russell and her team. So very happy to support the motion as amended. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you very much, Councillor Freshwater. Councillor Ian James.
Thank you very much, Provost. I'm over the moon to see this come to full council. My partner and I, as you be aware, are trustees of a charity that rescues and rehomes former racehorses, and we use them for children with needs. At a time when horse racing in particular, the Grand National, is under a lot of public scrutiny and what have you. We're fortunate enough here in Perth and Kinross to have one of the best trainers with some of the best horses. Scotland's pretty good actually for horse racing and trainers in general. Lots and lots of them, Keith Dalglish, Ian Jardine and such like. But here, with the two Grand National winners within 5 years of or 6 years of each other, one for Arthur and the latest Corach Rambler, over the moon to be able to honour Lucinda Russell and Peter Scudamore, and indeed the whole team. And it is a huge team behind them, to be fair. You often go unnoticed. So thank you, and I'll be very much supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Willie Robertson.
Thank you, Provost. I'm also delighted to see this motion coming forward, and I'm very, very pleased to support it. As has been said previously, Lucinda Russell and Peter Scudamore are well known now in Kinrossshire, and I personally have had dealings with them for nearly 30 years. The one thing to remember is that this is a fantastic achievement. They are the leading national hunt trainers in Scotland, but are also now famous throughout the UK and Ireland as being experts in training national hunt horses. If you live in Kinrossshire, one of the common sights now is seeing the horses going to the gallops on the foothills of the Bishop Hill, and everyone loves to see them. But and it's something that everybody can enjoy. After the one for Arthur one, I thought I was the only person that had money on it, but everybody I met had money on it, and Kinross was a much wealthier place after one for Arthur won in 2017, and the same applies when Corach Rambler won earlier this year. So I'm delighted for all the success that Lucinda and Peter have brought to Kinrossshire and to Perth and Kinross, and made us a leading place for both national hunt racing and for the enjoyment of horse racing. So I'm happy to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Leader of the Council to sum up.
Thanks very much, and thanks very much for the support across the chamber. I think an important part about Lucinda Russell and many of the horse racing fraternity and trainers across the UK is that it's not an elitist sport now, that people can join syndicates. Again, the syndicate that had Corach Rambler, you can join it for and pay a monthly subscription. It is not beyond the reach of everyone. I know that many people in this time could not afford to be part of it, but I think they can share in the joy that another Grand National winner brought to Perth and Kinross. And having had bits of a horse through in my own ownership racehorses over the years, I can tell the great enjoyment that can be gathered. But it's also important to know that we're talking about Scone later on, that Scone Racecourse is the most northerly racecourse in the UK, and you just have to wander around Perth on a race day to see how many people the racing at Perth Scone Racecourse brings into Perth. It's something we should all get behind, just for the economic benefit, but also the enjoyment that it brings to Perth and Kinross. So I'm really happy that everybody across the chamber is willing to bestow the freedom of the city onto Lucinda Russell and Peter Scudamore on behalf of their whole team. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. Members, can we agree the revised motion? Thank you. Members, item 5.4 is school pupils to select name for Crosstay Link Road to mark the coronation, and the Leader of the Council is going to move the motion.
Thanks very much. I think that this is another example of what's come out here has been born from being able to speak to each other across the chamber, to come to something that reflects something that everybody can support, because we can all take different meanings from what it is. I think that was the right time with the coronation of King Charles to tie the name of the new bridge, which we can see is in progress just now. And I think it ties in well with the return of the Stone of Scone to this area. So I think that the three names that have been chosen there fit into promoting what we're trying to do with Perth, and hopefully the influx of visitors to see the Stone of Scone, Stone of Destiny in Perth Museum. So without further ado, everybody can read the motion themselves, and I'm happy to promote this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. Councillor Duff to second the motion.
Thank you, Provost. It was a real pleasure to watch the coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla last weekend, and also to take part in a number of local coronation celebrations. Provost, as you are well aware, this motion seeks to mark the significance of the coronation as an historic event, and at the same time to recognise the importance of the Stone of Destiny, not just in this coronation, but in the crowning of kings and queens for many centuries. We are therefore proposing that the new bridge and road, which we currently call the Crossday Link Road, will be named to commemorate the coronation of the King, the historical connections which Perth and Scone have to these royal events, and the important role that the Stone of Destiny has played and continues to play in them. As members are aware, the stone will soon be the central attraction in our new Perth Museum. I am pleased that the young people of Perth and Kinross will be given the opportunity to choose one of the three options listed in the motion, and I look forward to hearing the preferred names for the bridge and road when it is announced next month. I'm very happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Councillor Bob Braun with a comment.
Thanks, Provost. Just a quick comment, but if I may, before I do, I would like to offer my congratulations to the Majesties, King Charles and Queen Camilla. This was a wonderful day to see. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't the best, but it was a wonderful day. And if I may also like to mention the various communities who put together so many different things. In specific, if I may, be very local for the Ballantoon Village Hall, who very rarely get a mention anywhere, but they organised a wonderful village tea for us all, well supported, and I had the honour of cutting the cake. The first time I've cut a cake in public since my wedding 40 years ago, and my hand was a lot steadier this time around, I may say. And one other point, if I may, and I think it's very important, I would like to think we should also give credit to the men and women of our armed forces and their display of precision drill on the day, something other countries can only dream of doing. Their performance, particularly in commencing the procession back to the palace in one movement off the mark, was nothing short of amazing. And this was, to quote the motto of the Coldstream Guards, nulli secundus, second to none. And going back to the motion, if I may, it's a very quick thing, and that's to suggest that perhaps, assuming we do approve the motion, that we do contact the palace to see if these names are approved. I have in mind the fact that very recently there was a suggestion that Terminal 5 at London Heathrow was to be called the King's Building to match the Terminal 1, which is the Queen's Building, and the King declined the offer because he felt it would contravene his conservation and environmental policies. I'm particularly thinking of number 2, which is the King's Bridge, and I think perhaps it might be an idea just to check that that is appropriate for the palace. It would be embarrassing if that is the choice and subsequently the King turns it down. So it's just a suggestion, but I think bearing in mind the time we've got before the road is finished, it'd be a worthwhile just checking that it's acceptable to the palace. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Braun. I can just provide a bit of an answer to your query in that both Councillor Duffin and myself actually spent a wee bit of time trying to research some of the rules around this. I think the view is that given it isn't specifically, say, the King Charles III Bridge, therefore we do not think that permission would be required. We are seeking clarification on that point, and we'll obviously confirm that properly before we get to that stage. But the reading of the guidance on the Palace website does, I think, indicate that given we're not proposing to name it the King Charles III Bridge, that we wouldn't require permission for that.
If I could just come back, the Terminal 5 was actually to be the King's building. It wasn't to be King Charles building, and he declined it personally. So I'm just thinking that might be something to check. Thank you.
Thank you. We will indeed be doing that. I have a point of clarification from Councillor Stewart and then a point of clarification from Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Provost. Just to check, because it has come up in a ward context before. My understanding from the street naming and numbering team is that best practice for services such as Royal Mail and these emergency services is not to use street names that are replicated within the same settlement, and we do already have roads beginning Coronation and Destiny in Scone. So I just wondered whether there had been consultation with the street naming and numbering team on this.
My understanding is, well, yes, there was, but the view I think that had been taken by those of us when we were drafting it was that it was significantly far enough away from the rest of the settlement, and if there was a significant problem, that could be addressed at the other end of the road. Councillor Lane, you have a point of clarification.
Thanks. I don't know how many people will be living on the bridge, Councillor Stewart, but we'll look at the maybe the road. Going back to the trawl that lived underneath it, yeah, I knew we were going to be thinking along the same lines, so I don't think there'll be that. The point of clarity was really for Councillor Braun. It's the King's Bridge. There has been Kings. It doesn't refer to specifically the new King. It refers to kings in general. So I don't think there could be any question. It was the route of kings towards Scone. So I think that's where it was coming from. So just to maybe allay some concerns that we're not naming it specifically after any king, but of the many kings that have been before as well as the present one.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other indications. Sorry, Councillor Leishman, you have a comment.
Thanks very much, Provost. I'll keep my comment brief. I'll be honest, I'm rather disappointed that we are giving our children a predetermined shortlist, because giving them a list is nothing more than I would describe as a tick box exercise. It's certainly not the proper community involvement and engagement I would hope for. Given a list is pretty much a backdoor way of getting the wishes councillors want and not know those of the people we serve. It's my opinion that children and young people are the future, and we need to get them involved in decision making and local matters as much as we possibly can. And I think we've missed a pretty great opportunity really to empower our children by giving them a blank canvas and let them come up with the names for the bridge and the road. And by doing this, we could have created an event, encouraged participation, and even given our teachers the opportunity in their lessons to incorporate the rich history of our region, the beautiful places we are lucky enough to call home, and explain the fates and achievements of many inspirational people that come from Perth and Kinross. But instead, we're going with these three options that are linked to a stone and the billionaire that sat on top of it last weekend to receive a golden crown. Well, it's not the exact definition of a Hobson's choice for our children. It's certainly not far from it. And when you consider the £250 million spent on the coronation and how many hungry people that we have in this country, it really is obvious that we're a country with some seriously questionable priorities.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Leishman. Leader of the Council to sum up.
Thanks, Provost. I don't think we need to talk any further. I think this has been a compromise, and I'm glad that we were able to enter into that conversation to come up with three names. I think that we can all take something from, and I'm quite happy to move the motion as it is.
Thank you. Members, can we agree the motion? Thank you. Members, item 5.5 is the A9 Dunkeld, Bale & Clan to move.
Thank you, Provost. I bring this motion to Council as the communities of Dunkeld, Burnham and Strathbran are being challenged daily by the inadequacies of the Dunkeld and Burnham junction on the A9. There is little need to labour on details of number of fatalities, closures of the road due to road traffic collisions, We are all aware of its dangers, but we do not live there and have to cope with the dangers associated by the inadequacies of the current layout. For many residents of the area accessing services in Dunkeld, such as doctor's surgery, pharmacy, primary school, place of worship, sports facilities, Burnham Arts Centre, hospitality venues, and many other local activities and groups, involves crossing the A9. The A9 north and south is a busy route, with traffic flow being almost continuous at times, making crossing the route exceptionally challenging. Drivers feel they are taking their life in their hands when crossing the traffic flow. This motion is not about a dualling programme of the A9. It is to ask that a serious road safety issue is addressed, not ignored. One which the communities are desperate to have the need for recognised, combined with a plan as to how identified improvements will be delivered. They are hoarse from shouting about this issue. Fellow councillors James Lang and I will be the first to say we represent one of the most scenic parts of Perthshire. Its beauty delivers for the local economy, tourism, which is a major economic driver. The increase of traffic using the junction in the busy tourist season further highlights how dangerous crossing the traffic flow is. The near misses are never recorded, but certainly happen. I ask you to add your support to this important motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey McLaren. Councillor James to second.
Yeah, thanks very much, Provost. Bailey McLaren came up with this motion and asked me to second her, which I'm delighted to do. The A9, as we all know, has been subject to several fatal accidents recently. The motion itself, if I'm honest, we did try to amend it and make it a little more readable, if you like, but we were a little bit late getting it in. However, the thrust of it is in this motion you see before you. I'd like to see something done at the junctions whereby people have safe egress and access in and out without fear of hitting something. And I think I'm right in saying that all three ward councillors are in agreement that something needs to be done with the A9 without the dualling being carried out. If I'm honest, we're looking particularly here in this motion at the Strathtabe portion and in particular around Dunkeld. However, I think it could extend beyond that, north and south. There's an awful lot of dangerous junctions, but very, very happy to second Bailey McLaren's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Reid, you have an amendment.
Thank you, Provost. Yeah, it's only if the proposer and seconder agree. If they do, I would like to request that the motion is extended to include the many substandard and incredibly dangerous junctions that exist on the A9 south of Perth.
In my view, that wouldn't be a competent amendment, given the motion is specifically the A9 at Dunkeld and refers to the fact it's in relation to the fact that the dualling hasn't taken place, and therefore I wouldn't consider that to be competent for inclusion.
That's fine.
Thank you. I have Bailey next.
Thank you, Provost. I really just wanted to thank the proposer and the seconder for putting this on the agenda today. When I first saw it, my initial reaction was to flinch a little, that I thought this would be drum banging about the dualling of the A9, but I'm really pleased to see it's a considered motion about improving the safety, and safety improvements don't need to include dualling. They're two separate topics, and I was happy to see them separated on today's agenda. So thank you very much for that to Bailey McLaren and Councillor James. Fully support. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey. Leader of the council.
Thanks, Provost. Yeah, I have spoken to Councillor McLaren and Councillor James, my ward colleagues, and I'm happy to support the thrust of what is going on here. It's just the language. I think we would agree we could change to make it more of a request and actually to achieve more with it. So after speaking to them, and my proposal would be that we get together as ward colleagues, as leader of the council and as 3 ward members, and write to the Transport Minister together. We ask for a meeting with him and some of his Transport Scotland colleagues to discuss what can be done, because I do agree, although roads aren't dangerous and at total blame it's down to driver error, but I understand, as I do drive into Dunkeld at least once, twice a week, the frustration of sitting waiting to cross the road, and you feel the pressure behind you, which you shouldn't have 5 or 6 vehicles willing you to go, and you can then people sometimes make an error and go when the road is not clear to do so. So I'm happy to do that if they would accept that we write a letter together, we phrase it together, we ask for a meeting, and we ask for we request to see what improvements can be done. I'm not a road safety expert, and I don't believe either of my colleagues are, so to demand a roundabout without knowing everything of the benefit, the pros and cons of that, I think would be easy for them to say, well, we can't do that, and that would be the end of it. I think if we ask and have a suite of options of which they could do to improve it, I think might be a better way forward. So if I'd like the proposer and the seconder to consider that we work together, we will get a letter in that we can all sign, and we will ask for the measures to come back to us. And I think if the more of us writing together on behalf of the council, but mainly on behalf of ourselves, we'll achieve something better. I'm not scared to write letters. I have had to write a few in the last year, so I'm quite happy to get some assistance in writing this one. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Councillor Robertson next, and then Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Provost. I think this is an excellent motion, and I'm grateful to my colleague Councillor McLaren and to Councillor James for bringing it forward. They're trying to address a growing problem for people who live and use Dunkeld as not just as to live, but actually to access the fantastic amenities that they have round about Dunkeld. But anybody who's there on a busy weekend or during the summer knows it's an absolute nightmare trying to get out of the junction back onto the A9. Traffic queued all the way back to the Telford Bridge over the river. It's terrible, and as Councillor Lane clearly said, people then start to take risks. They try to get across a huge line of traffic, and it's just terrifying to watch and to witness. So I'm delighted that they have brought this motion forward to try and address a serious local problem and a serious road safety issue. I don't see this section of the A9 being dualled in the next 10 years, to be honest. So I really do think a short-term and safe measure should be found to make life easier for both local residents and for people visiting this lovely part of Perth Kinross. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, Provost. I'd be very interested to see if the Transport Minister comes to meet with Councillor Lang over this matter, because I wrote to him just a few weeks ago and asked him to meet with me and residents of St Meadows to discuss the issues with the bridge there. I got a very quick and very firm response, and the answer was no, he wouldn't be coming to visit us. So can I just request if Councillor Lang manages to get him into this area, he perhaps lets me know, and I could maybe tag on the end of the meeting and have a word with him about the issues in St Meadows at the same time. Thank you.
Leader of the council, you wish to respond on that point?
Yeah, I envisaged it being a Teams meeting rather than out on the road meeting, so as we would have people there. I think it'd be much easier to achieve. And if the minister was willing to come up, that would be fine. Maybe it's in the way that you approach asking that you maybe get a better result. So that's why I'm asking. for the language to be slightly changed in this one. And I would ask if you ask the proposer and seconder if they could agree with my offer.
Thank you. Well, I don't have any other comments that I can see, and therefore I'm going to come to Blair McLaren to sum up, and hopefully she will be able to confirm if she's accepting what you have suggested.
Thank you, Provost, and thank you for all comments. I'm delighted to accept the Council Leader's proposal and acknowledge that a combined approach. We are just all representing our residents and communities, and we want to try our best to bring any results we can for them. So quite happy and delighted to accept. Thank you.
Thank you, Bailey McLaren. Councillor Forbes, you were indicating there that you wished to come back, and although Bailey McLaren has summed up, just in case I missed what it was that you were looking to come back on there, I will come back to you very briefly.
I was just slightly disappointed at Councillor Laing's tone, and he didn't see the letter I sent to the Transport Minister. It was very polite. I think that was the implication he was making. I just thought it was appropriate that I had the opportunity to respond to that. Thank you, Provost.
That's fine. Thank you. Right, members, can we agree the revised motion, please? Thank you. Members, item 5.6 is a motion to amend Standing Order 9.1 under the terms of Standing Order 2.7a. This is a notice of intention, and it will be debated at the next full council meeting in June. Members, item 6 we will move on to shortly, but I'm going to take a brief comfort break at this time, and then we will move on to the other papers. So I think 10 minutes, back at 10 to sharp.
Thank you, Provost. Councillors, these are the final versions of our new 5-year strategies for culture, physical activity and sport. You've considered them at draft stage in December Council last year, and we put a report to you about a year ago, June last year, just asking you to approve the consultation and development stage for the strategies. Since December, we've done further engagement with all the stakeholders and partners who've been involved in making these strategies with us. We didn't have any major changes requested to the strategic priorities for either document, but we have updated the action plans for both in light of that feedback. So section 4 of the report sets out the context for you. Section 5 sets out the proposed monitoring framework through our existing wider performance monitoring frameworks, and section 6 is just a reminder of wider related work around transformation which pertains to these strategies. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Fiona. Members, do you have any questions? Councillor Massey, you wish to pick up a point of clarification on...
Yeah, thank you, Provost. I just want to bring it to the Council attention that in January of this year, the University of the Highlands and Islands, Perth College, officially announced the rebranding to UHI Perth. It's stated in the paper, the Appendix 1, that they're still using the title of the University of the Highlands and Islands Perth College. Can I ask that the new title of UHI Perth is corrected in the appendix, and that we use the official rebranding title of UHI Perth in the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. That can be done. Councillor Donaldson, you have 2 questions.
Thank you, Provost. Could I ask Fiona, we state in the paper at the end of the substantive report the need to be ambitious and creative in generating investment from non-public sources. And then on page 120, it's the launch of our Invest in Culture and Sport programme to raise 5 million in additional funding, and it seems we've got $1 million already allocated in respect of year 1. Can I just ask what sources for the additional funding we're looking for? Is not just to confirm the likes of Ganachie Trust, and we know how much they've contributed and how generous they have been to people in Perth and Kinross over the years. but is for the likes of corporate sponsorship and also for private donations, given the benefits you get from gift aid and the 25% uplift there.
Councillor Donaldson, yes, it is. And there is a target, as you've rightly identified, in the first year to try and reach 1 million from non-public sources. All three of our ALIOs, our key delivery partners for culture and sport, are very effective at fundraising, as are wider partners across the area. However, I think in terms of the need to grow and diversify income streams for culture and sport from non-public sources, so corporate sources, private benefactors, etc. Collectively, those sectors, we need to be better at that. The quality of life in this area in Perth and Kinross is very substantial. Perth Museum is opening next year, as we were remarking earlier in the meeting. That will bring significant economic benefits to this area. So it is right, in my view, that we as a council look to the business and other sectors to discuss with them what additional support they can bring to bear on these very important areas of activity.
Councillor Donaldson, your second question.
I'll let others ask their questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peter Barrett. Sorry, Fiona, I'm just going to pause there a second. We're having some technical issues and those online cannot hear sound for some reason. So you just bear with us a second. Okay, they seem to be able to hear me. We'll try again in a second. And can I ask if everyone can make sure their devices are muted, because there is at least one device that's pinging. Can those online at home hear me? Yes, and it seems like people in the room can hear me as well. Okay, let's try something else. Okay, members, we're going to have to leave the morning session and join the afternoon session. This will take a few minutes. We will aim to resume the session as soon as possible. IT are in looking at the problems. And yes, this is possibly ruining my end time at the moment.